Good evening. Good evening to the online viewers. So before we enter our talk and then dialogue, let us meditate a bit. Tuning into this type of meeting which engages a very specific part of ourselves that usually is not a part of natural or ordinary human communication. For that we need to allow ourselves to go more deeply. Imagine that we begin our meeting somewhere on the surface of an ocean. This is usually where our consciousness, well, to continue with the metaphor, floats. This is the layer of superficial connection that is based more on reactions like thoughts and emotions and judgments and opinions. But we allow ourselves to fall into the ocean here and meet somewhere on its ground, in a place so silent that even ourselves cannot exist. And this might be a bit disorienting, but it also might be magical. Sometimes it's disorienting and magical, which is also okay. So let us close our eyes for this meditation. And take a deep breath. Breathe slowly and deeply. And relax more and more with every breath we take. So examine with which mood you have entered this meeting. Perhaps you came very happy, or distressed, or troubled. Sad or excited. Full of love or contracted. But try now to get in touch with a place in your mind and being which has nothing to do with this mood. A place which is there whether you are happy or sad. Usually, we become our moods. We are like a sky that identifies with a cloud. The cloud after some time changes its shape, then we feel differently. Try to find in you the background of all moods. Go behind your happiness or sadness. Joy or contraction. Tiredness or ecstasy. All these moods are screened on this background. So find a place which is moodless, mood-free. And just get in touch with a way of being in which you are always the same. Every day you wake up the same. You wake up as this background. Lose attachment to the mood with which you came to this evening. And check what happens to your mind when it is not in any mood. But it is just there. Spacious, unaffected, unimpressed. So that if I asked you now, how are you doing? You would not be doing, you would be being. So with this non-mood, slowly come out of the meditation, gently open your eyes. See, we all the time feel good, bad, sad, happy, tired. There's all the time something going on. We are our own drama. There is even on Facebook, right? This feeling happy, feeling blessed. I don't know what it is, but there's always a certain state. And it is really when we begin to connect to this one continuum of mood. You can even think of it as the mood of the cosmos. Try to imagine for a moment how the cosmos is doing right now. Could you? Is the cosmos happy, sad, tired, energetic? This is when we begin to enter a way of being. And we are much more than we feel or think. This may be boring, of course, may seem boring to the part in us that loves the drama, that feels that life is in this drama. That when we feel these changing moods, up and down, and these extremes, this agitation, this means that we are alive. But life is not really there. Life hides within this way of being. There you can find it. So this meditation is connected to what we are going to speak about and it is this thing we call reaction. You know what reaction is? Let's say right now I'm saying something. This thing that I'm saying triggers a quick response in you. Uncontrolled, basically. That is almost like, not almost like, that is like pushing a button. We say something is said. For example, we hear the name Trump, and then there is tick, and our brain produces a reaction. Or the train is delayed, and quickly a reaction. We see something that our brain automatically recognizes as something it dislikes. The button is pressed. We walk like this all day long, reacting. Since we are cultured human beings, we mostly do not reveal our endless reactions, right? For example, perhaps I'm saying right now things that annoy you or thrill you, but the reaction is mostly kept inside. But we certainly do not or hardly control the reaction inside. And this is also happening inside when we are watching the movie of our own thoughts and feelings. Every thought and feeling we react to them. This is how we begin to engage in the thoughts and the feelings. Sometimes we also react to thoughts and feelings by trying to suppress them, to push them away, to argue with them. We begin a certain inner dialogue. And this is, the reaction is what is the activity that makes the mind so busy. Because imagine that somebody would sit next to you and keep telling you things. As long as you respond to this person all the time, every sentence that they say, you respond. Then they feel that there is some dialogue going on, and they keep talking, right? But leave your mind without a reaction on your part. It goes away because it has nobody to talk to. It doesn't evoke, it doesn't trigger your reaction, and therefore doesn't get enough energy. And this is all, of course, reaction seems very natural because we are human beings, and when we communicate, if somebody says something interesting, we need to react with to show interest. If they tell us about something sad, then we need to become sad for them. But what about all the endless reactions that are not needed? Try 99% of them. "99% of the things in life do not require any type of reaction." In fact, reaction is something that is like a strange transition state between the only two states, modes of being that are real. One is being and listening, and the second is acting. In the middle, there is something really strange going on. Because you see, in a way, if you are not going to act, why would you react? The reaction is something so frantic, so uncontrolled, and so meaningless. It's just, in a way, the way we share our opinion about what is going on in a way that is completely meaningless and useless. It is a complete waste of energy. For example, here you listen to me, to this talk, and there is the listening, and perhaps the talk triggers in you some kind of action, or wakes in you some kind of action. But all the process in between of what you think of it, how you feel about it, and so on, how you respond is in a way quite meaningless. Basically, we can go throughout the day without almost any type of reaction. The train is delayed. That's it, the train is delayed. What do you think about the fact that the train is delayed? Well, I think that the train is delayed. This is my thought about this situation. We have some kind of a challenge. Hey, what do you think about this challenge that you are facing right now? Well, I think that I'm facing a challenge right now. That's it. Challenge, data, listening, action. The process in between, the anger, sadness, disappointment, arguing with it, pushing it and away, and the struggle, all the noise that we make in between is simply not only not needed, it keeps us away from intelligence, from brightness of mind, from lucidity, from knowing what to do, or in other words, knowing how to act. And if you try for one day not to react at all, it's a lot of fun, by the way. It's a very interesting experiment. The day goes by, things are presented before your mind's eye, they are presented before you, and you just let go of this transition state that is completely unnecessary. You simply renounce it. I don't need it. What's the point now? You don't even try to analyze. Sometimes we feel anger, and then we try to think about our anger and to analyze. Why am I angry? Is it because of a trauma that happened to me at the age of 13? Or is it and sometimes there is a problem in life. And then we begin to think, why do I have this problem? What is the lesson of this problem? What is the gift? Why is it is God's will that I should have this problem? All this defense mechanism, and this is a huge defense mechanism that stands between us and reality, between us and action in the world. We don't need it. In terms of a car, think of it as the most gas-wasting activity. It's like this one activity that just wastes and empties the tank rapidly. While without it, you could just go on driving, keep on being one with the flow of just being, listening, and action. Listening, action. That's it. Now, but what I'm saying is tricky, right? Because this thing is between. You know what it is? It is the self. The self, what we call myself, the way I experience myself, is through these reactions. This is how I am. Remove this constant automatic reaction, and all you've got is an empty mind, fully attentive, and situations. That's it. Your whole day gets completely messed up, which something that tends to happen more often than not. Life is very disruptive. But if you do not react to any of it, There is no way to sense yourself, because there is just a flow. You are one with the action, there is only being and acting, and in a very deep way know you. Now, this is basically the easiest meditation. I close my eyes. I watch. There are thoughts, there are emotions, there are sensations. Now remove the reaction to the thoughts, to the emotions, the sensations. What are you? This whole center that we call myself is wiped away. Instead, there is deep silence at the core of your mind. Try it now. Don't wait for a delayed train. You are here. There is listening. What happens if I only listen without reaction? If you go with it very deeply, there's only this meeting without you in it. And this is an extraordinary state of silence. But now we can say, but what about all our emotions? Because emotions are surely a reaction, right? Someone says something, then I'm disappointed, angry, frustrated, sad. Have you ever thought what all these emotions are? Basically, emotions, negative emotions, these ones that I mentioned, they are just the postponement of action. It's like when I don't know how to act, I escape to emotions. I think that my emotions are a sort of action. This is our illusion, because somebody says something and then I'm angry. But what is anger? Anger is inability to cope. You don't know what to do with the fact. So you begin to try to change it instead of working with it. So when we don't know how to act, we feel incapable of acting, we escape to the world of our emotions. It is like almost like a compensation. We fill the gap of not knowing what to do, because it's like, but it's very childlike. It's because it's helpless. And there is nothing more, meaningless than emotions, negative ones. The anger, the sadness, the disappointment, the frustration, all that. What good is? How does this contribute to any kind of situation? Because at a certain point, after some time, when reality wouldn't accept our noise, we would need to kneel down, right? And to begin to shake off the dust and rise to our feet again and return to action, right? Eventually we need to pull ourselves out and just do what we were meant to do 2 hours before, 3 hours before, 5 hours, or 2 days. Eventually we say, okay. So because emotions are just the way we create a certain postponement. We refuse in a way to act. We don't want. We want to enter a childlike state, to withdraw from reality. There are only 2 real states. Everything else in between is noise. And I know that it can seem almost non-human to just be, listen, and act. Be, listen, and act. But how energetic this state is. How happy and real this is. Because it is really the first time in your life when you come out of yourself. It suddenly, reaction is like the inner world, you see? The part that we keep to ourselves, to the freedom of voicing our opinion about everything. This is terrible how they act. This is completely unacceptable. I can't believe he did this. No. How can people be like that? So letting go of reaction means a lot. It means that you are finally out of yourself. You are here. You are in the real world. I know that usually spirituality is, they say it's going within, right? Going inside. But to a certain degree, spirituality is going outside for the first time. It's being here. No inner world to escape into, to retreat, to withdraw, to argue. You are here. And this is when I move from reaction to response. And response is very beautiful. Response is when I take something, some fact into me, into my silence, and then I give something back. I really connect with the situation. I'm not triggered by it. I collaborate with it. I support it. I find out what I could do with it. You see? Will this make you extraordinarily silent? Yes, it will. Will it be less social than before? Yes, it will. Because society is built on ping pong, you see. Everything is the reaction between selves, the exchange of reactions that two selves share. And suddenly there is whatever is said, whatever appears before you falls into silence and meets with silence. And but at least when you finally respond, the response is very significant, you see, because it's full of meaning. It's because you have really listened. Let's see if there are questions. Responses. Yes, please.
So how do you feel, Shai? How does it feel not to feel?
How does it feel not to feel? Well, it feels like all the energy wasted on feeling is accumulated inside and is transformed into a vibration of presence, wakefulness, awareness, and intelligence. And it feels like you are not responding from one part of yourself, but with the whole of you. Because usually by feeling we shrink ourselves, you see? There is the connection with reality is so minimal. It's through one channel, one pathway that is already curved also. You always go with your disappointments, with your anger. It's like there is an immediate so-called connection with life, with reality. But then it's like the whole of you is connected. And all that is a sort of very, very silent bliss. You see? Sometimes when we hear the word bliss, we think of fireworks, dancing on the roof or whatever. But bliss, the bliss of silence is so subtle, so refined that it is like a complete happiness that is so happy that you don't even experience it. You see? It's a sense of completeness. And the more you realize what happens when your reactions transform, the more your appetite grows, you see? This is what makes us basically addicted to silence. Because we realize what kind of reward this silence that feels, that permeates our whole being gives us, you see? I mean, have we asked ourselves why are we reacting, basically? What is this method of communication with life, with the world, with situations? Who said that? Have we ever questioned this kind of rapid so-called responses to everything we see, we feel, and so on and so on? But again, I want to make it clear. Let's say somebody close to you dies. And then there is a stream of anguish, of sadness, filling the body. It should be clear. Not reacting is not necessarily to block the pain, because if you're blocking, this is the reaction, you see, this is you. Me is this reaction to everything. And when there is no reaction to the pain, it just flows like a river and transforms itself eventually. This is quite extraordinary, because what makes pain stay is our reaction. We don't want it, we want it, we attach, we identify, we push it away, we embrace it, we analyze it, we keep something for tomorrow. now I will be a little bit in pain, tomorrow I will be more with this pain, and there it will remain for the rest of my life, because I will, sometimes I meet people and they tell me that they are in pain for about, as a result of a certain event that took place 20 or 30 years ago. Now this is doesn't make sense, because if you really let pain fully flow inside you without reaction, letting it be there, not distorting it, it expresses itself and then it transforms. It always becomes happiness. Always. Because all our emotions, they have only one, they are like rivers that all flow into the ocean of bliss. For that, because you see, I'm just getting that perhaps we are thinking that no reaction means a new type of suppression. And it's not about that, because what you meet here is the result of letting all the streams of emotion take place without any interruption. And then they transform, then they become silence. So even if you find a reaction in you, don't react to it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because the reaction, you cannot control it. You cannot say, no, I will not feel that, because it's already taking place. It's automatic. It has its own momentum. If you try to control it, this is a reaction. Reaction is what comes from the center of yourself in order to stop or change anything. Yes.
So, in the light of everything you just said, is there any meaning to spiritual states?
Is there any meaning to spiritual states? Why do you ask that? What is the...
Because you're talking about non-reaction.
Yes.
And there is, sometimes we can experience amazing states of consciousness, or love, or unity, or whatever. But when there is no reaction, there is no experiencer of those states.
Uh-huh.
And then they just...
Yes.
It seems like they have no... In a way, they're the same. Like, because you're the same.
Yeah.
So do they have any meaning? Does it matter?
Okay, so what's the meaning of spiritual experiences if we are always the same? Spiritual experiences are all meant to show us that we are always the same. This is their job. They're basically meant to all spiritual states are meant to lead us to one thing, which is the stateless state, you see, of being. So all these expansions of consciousness and unconditional love and so on, these are all still in a way expressions or echoes of this stateless state. But then there are still states that also pass, right? By the way, even if you really like a state like unconditional love, I don't know, you feel an explosion in your chest, and then you tend to get disappointed when it's over, because it's so exceptional. But try to imagine this explosion going on for more than, I don't know, 1 hour, now 2 days, 3 days. Your nervous system will break down. Our system cannot hold an over-ecstatic state for too long. It's not meant to. It's not natural. That is why the silence is the ocean. Being is the ocean. Everything else is rivers flowing into it. So they are like indicators that you are on the right way. You see, they show you the way. They tempt you also. They are good seducers. When you feel unconditional love, then you say, hey, this spirituality is quite good. Let's continue. Oh, happiness. Or suddenly, I don't know, you find yourself dancing for 1 hour. So it's all like temptation. It's the way the magnet of silence works on you. But it all leads you to the core, to a stateless state of being. And to that stateless state of being, yes, it is not important whether you are now in unconditional love or in complete pain. There is quite an indifference to the states, because everything is wonderful to screen on your background, on the background that you are. You see, why would you choose? You see? It's like, what does it matter? It all indicates, it all points out towards you. It all wants to remind you of you, eventually. It is all meant to lead you to a state in which you transcend all opposites. And in that sense, also spiritual states are opposites of contracted states. Right? I don't know, I have a vision of Jesus. And then I have a nightmare. You see? All think vision of Jesus is much better than a nightmare. To our being, we are meant to eventually go beyond the vision of Jesus and the nightmare, you see. They are all calling us to be free from the content you see, and be more interested in that, in the space that holds the content, because in it the truth, the reality, and also the uninterrupted line. Always ask yourself, yes, but what is not changing? You see? If in your greatest heights, the most important question is, yes, okay, but what is not changing? Don't resist the spiritual experience, of course. Be in it, but still, be more engaged in, okay, yes, but what is it that will not go away after this wonderful experience will go away? When I was at the age of 23 and awakening took place, it didn't come as a quiet event. It came, in this case, because it can be very different in other cases, it came as a very, very intense explosion of few months. It just wouldn't stop. And it was a constant explosion of love and tears and laughter and the inability to sleep and suddenly needing to run on the street like out of complete bliss and suddenly standing on the street, embarrassing, without moving, and because there was nothing, you see. So all that, it was so explosive, but it was also very unbalanced, and I didn't know what to do with it because it wasn't written in the books, you see. There was nothing in the books. In the books there was just this guy understood something and got enlightened. Things like, so I wasn't expecting such a disruptive explosion, uncontrolled. And then I called my first teacher, who was for that time, and I said, I don't know. I was almost incapable of talking because it was so disorienting. And I told him, look, I don't know what to do. It's like it's a complete storm. And then he asked me, yes, but what about the center of the storm? That which doesn't move? Is there recognition of that? And I listened to this question, and immediately something entered profound peace. Because it made me realize that it wasn't important, you see. The storm was just an indication. It was a finger pointing into its own center, saying, look, can you see? This is what I want. And when I understood that, then the storm continued, but there was no storm anymore. So then when you enter the center of the storm like this, you can enter any center of any storm, you see. Also of sadness, of pain, of like when your whole life enters a complete breakdown, there is a complete breakdown and there is no breakdown. You don't feel anything, you see? Even if your emotional system and everything, your body, your nervous system, everything is engaged, there is this part, the core of your being, which doesn't react, which rests within itself. And this makes you in love with any state, you see? There was a time of constant storms in my life. It was, again, back then, and at the end of every week was completely crazy. At the end of every week, I would say, I am now, dear Cosmos, inviting even more. Please, just bring it all. I don't care. And that was my freedom, you see. To love the storm and because I knew that storms only were meant to show me one and only thing. That I am that which is unaffected by it, you see? Then you love it. It's like, your partner leaves you, your financial situations, it goes crazy, your people are angry, and you just sit in it and you say, oh, amazing, what a ride. And you watch all this roller coaster of that goes around you. But you are not the roller coaster, and that is why you are in bliss, you see? Because you love it, you can't fear that which only wants to tell you, hey, look at you. Silence is fearlessness. Wait, I will just first see what I have here. This is an online question from Caroline. Hello. So, why is it so different and easy to get in contact with the oneness when you are with someone who has this connection? And why does this connection break so easily when you are on your own or with people that have a negative energy? So why is it so different and easy to get in contact with oneness when you are with someone who is in oneness? Well, this is why there are spiritual teachers in the world. Because you see, sometimes we ask, do we need the presence of teachers at all? Do we need the presence of awakened ones and so on? Can't we go on independently? And we do not realize that the question is not whether we can go on independently or not. Because of course everything can be independently. It's just the question is, if we can inquire into life completely independently, why would we need to read even one book, for example? Why? Because of inspiration. We are systems, open systems, and we need inspiration. We need to be stimulated. And we are anyway always stimulated. What we call our individualities is not really individuality, but a bundle of influences and conditioning. So we meet those who has this connection because we need to be inspired by their complete confidence. Awakened beings, they have unshakable confidence. No matter what, even if God came from the heavens, like with a spaceship, and with his angels and its angels and telling you, hey, I came all the way to tell you you are not enlightened. I'm sorry. Here is the letter of the official letter from heaven, and I'm sorry. Then you would just look at God and say, honestly, you are just a projection of my mind. Because in me there is no change, and I anyway cannot be enlightened because there is also no bondage, so you can't tell me that. You see, so, and I'm saying all of that just so that we will understand. In true awakened beings, there is complete confidence that they never lose. They never have doubts. They don't think, oh, have I lost it? Oh, what's going on? Or they wake up in the morning and say, wow, I'm feeling myself again. Or they're always the same, always. 100% of the time. And this is when what we need, because our confidence is still wavering. We can't be fully sure. We are still fluctuating. Between the two versions of reality. You see, the absolute one and the relative one, and we can't be so sure. So this is why it is so easy to get in contact with this, because we meet an unshakable conviction in a human form, and that tells us, hey, you can also be like that. You can also be confident. You can also trust 100% of the time your being. And then there is another lack of confidence. We're not sure that one can actually act from this state. Live in it, that it can be an actual interaction with life. So that is why we need awakened beings, because they know how to act from this state. It's natural. And then we say, hey, it's possible. It's not something that will make me crazy. I will actually be able to do things. Sometimes to be much more active than I was before awakening. So this type of confidence is what we do not have because our being is still not fully integrated as one continuum. We are distracted by thoughts, emotions, and experiences that tell us, you know what, maybe your reality is very different. Maybe you should reconsider. Maybe the ego is real, and so on and so on, you see? So why does this connection break so easily when you are on your own or with people that have negative energy? Because these people, they attract exactly this inconfidence in us. Now, this type of people, they are really important. It's really important to be around people with negative energy from time to time. Don't, please, don't take it. Surround yourself now with only with difficult people. But it's important. Don't try to live in a sterile environment in which nobody tests your own confidence, you see? You need to lose it. Because you need to find out, to experience what is real and to choose. And you cannot do it all the time just surrounded by confident people. So then you are with someone who is completely negative and you need to use it in order to get a feedback. Of your own knowing, you see, what is true. You know, sometimes people are afraid that they might lose their state. And I say, if you are afraid of losing your state, then just tell your state, go ahead, let's lose you. You see? Whenever I felt that I was losing my state of silence or whatever, I said, okay, well, if I can lose this state, it's not real, right? Because reality cannot be lost. Reality is not going anywhere. So, this is fake silence, probably. Really? So I lost it. Because I was looking for this thing that I couldn't lose. So be inspired by confident, awakened beings. Don't avoid negative energies. And always look for that which cannot be lost. That which cannot be taken away from you. Because freedom is not a state. Freedom is when you don't care, losing all your states. So, any more questions? Were you not raising your hand before? No question.
Yeah, maybe yes.
You entered deeply.
You were leading very carefully towards the difference between reacting and responding.
Yes.
And I was questioning myself if responding is just equally important to the silence, like to the screen and everything that's on the screen. If it's equally important, basically. I have this image of Shiva and Shakti or Shiva and Kali.
You mean the question is it important to the way we respond, right?
Like everything that's alive in the world, in this
Yes.
realm.
Yes.
Like yin and yang, is it in this realm that we are living in, not completely in Shiva or not completely in silence, but here in this realm,
Yes.
everything that's moving in the universe as well,
Yeah.
everything is reacting in a way and changing.
So is it important?
Is it like two sides of a coin?
That thing we respond to.
Yes.
You give the example of Shiva and Shakti, and just like Shiva and Shakti, they are inseparable. And that is why, in reality, being and acting are they just flow from one another, you see. Response in the world becomes more and more accurate the more the being opens up, the more the being is revealed. And the better you respond, the more accurately you respond, the more your being grows. You see? So they influence each other. It's just like the difference between a tree and its fruit. Can you differentiate? When you look at a tree with many fruits, do you say these fruits are different than the tree? Right? It is an outcome of the tree, but it is still a part of the tree, right? Obviously. Yeah? Makes sense. I'm not a gardener, but I think this is common sense. So, the fruit is the action, is the response, and it comes out of being. The action is silence, you see. The tree is silence, and the fruit is the action that comes from it.
So we don't turn away from everything that is action towards the oneness.
If we turn away from everything that is action, what will turn away, you see? It's only the self that turns away, that makes these choices, the discriminations, these preferences. You see, when we are sitting here, when there is silence, is the world really different from meditation? Is this room not your meditation? When we say there is an inner world into which I go, and then there is the outer world, is it true? Is there really an inner world and outer world? Not at all. It's just one flow. It's one flow. And you realize that in silence, there is just one world, not two. So you cannot, there is no response to the outside world and then it doesn't work like this. There's just one world. And when you act in the world, it's your meditation. And when you meditate, you act in the world. You see, it's all so beautiful. We live in one world. I saw a question over there. So 2 questions. First there was here, and then I will answer your question, please. Yes?
You answered it partly with the last answer. Because you said that reaction is avoidance of action.
Yes.
I was wondering, how do we know how to act without resistance to life?
Again, please. How do we?
How do we know how to act without this mechanism of resistance and avoidance and emotional reaction?
How do we know? How to act, basically, this is what you ask? How to act without emotions? Is this the question?
Yes, because you said that we do all that because we have no idea how to act with what is happening. So we kind of direct everything through emotions and avoidance. And I was wondering, how does it look like when it's completely different?
So how do we act without emotions? Very simple. We simply understand that it's a waste of energy. I know that this sounds unreasonable because we think that our emotions are very complicated to transform. And we do not realize that we are basically quite like children. You know children, when they are angry, they cry and they cry and they cry, and then they get a balloon, and then they move on. How can children be in complete drama and then get a balloon and be happy? it's probably because they were not really taking so seriously this tears and drama. It was just, in a way, a show of rebelling against reality. That's it. They wanted to make a statement, look, I don't accept reality. So I cry, I make a lot of noise. Everyone will hear that I don't accept reality. Now, are we different from children? Yeah, because we are much more attached to our emotions. We begin to take them seriously. You see? And then we say, yes, this is anger, I'm disappointed. But really, you know, there was a Zen master, a very great one. I don't remember his name, from the 20th century, and they asked him, "Do you ever get angry?" So he said, "Of course, for a moment, but then I say, what's the point?" And I go on. And I like this response because he doesn't try to pretend that he never has emotions. He just says, I'm much quicker than you. I don't need all this time to realize I only need 1 second. It's like I get angry and then I say, come on. Look at you. It doesn't, this is meaningless. And then he acts. We are not meant to be statues. Never get angry, but it's just we can realize that we can move in a second from this through intelligence. And it's not repression. It's just like looking at, come on. I'm not going to play out this drama again. This is, what am I, a 3-year-old? You see? And this is shocking because as soon as you adopt this intelligence, you need very little time, and you realize that your body doesn't have an imprint of the sorrow or whatever. You see? It just doesn't have it because it's not natural for these things to enter more and more deeply into the body and never come out. In short, we are much lighter beings than we pretend we are, you see? In essence, we are just like those children. We only need to get a balloon. Yes, please, last question.
I understand not to react.
Yes.
The things that happen to us, like the way of train.
Yes.
But how we can respond or not react to things which is done to us, like, I don't know, violation, attacking, or something. So.
Do you mean in the moment in which it happens or afterwards?
In the moment and also after, because it's a process that you are in, and it starts right after the thing happens, and then it's going on. And it is okay, you can understand maybe later to come together with intelligence and so on.
Yes.
But this is also needs a little bit time, at least.
Yes.
And, for the first time.
Yes.
But still how to respond, right?
Okay, so the question is what when there is something that is done to us and we are in the moment of, and we don't have, of course, time to develop, to cultivate complete listening or whatever. And now, of course, when there is a huge grizzly bear coming towards us to kill us, it's better that we would run. You see, which is a reaction. We don't stand and listen. we don't wait, we just use our instincts that tell us run away. And there are many situations, or there are some situations, especially life endangering, when we need to just use our instinct. But the thing is that mostly we use our instincts also for the non-dangerous situations. For example, let's say that somebody insults me or screams at me. Do I have to react? I don't know, to make myself clear, to make my opinion clear, to show that I'm strong. You see? Of course, again, if somebody comes and beats me, then I would do everything I could. If it's dangerous and I can't escape, then I would need to protect myself. If I can just go away, I go away. But these are very extreme situations. In most situations, even then we do not need to react. Because it is reaction that fuels everything, you see? Reaction complicates things. Whenever somebody did something to me in life, I never reacted, and all my actions in life that I regret are the times in which I did react. You see? Basically, there was not even one time in which I needed to react. I can't find even one single moment in which it was the right action. Where the moments in which I was wise were the moments in which I was silent. And overcame the temptation to make my voice heard, to show myself, to be strong. Do you see?
Yeah, I see, I understand, but still, when this level of violation is not only beating, but it is more than this, and you have anger, and you have, let's say, as an adult, disappointment, and so on and so on. So, how come that we can respond later also?
How
When
come?
you are
Sorry?
full of pain, and you're supposed to not feel it.
No!
I mean,
Feel it!
reaction, how? Yeah.
Feel it, just don't do anything, just don't act on it. Because you see, we have the false impression, and again, I know that it sounds unreasonable because we have these instincts of self-defense and so on, of making our voice heard and all that. But it's not like you're meant to block the pain or the hurt or whatever. It's just we have the wrong impression that we need to act on it. But acting on it just creates more complication. There is a reaction, and then we react to the reaction, and the other reacts to our reaction to the reaction, and then we react to the reaction to the reaction to the reaction, and so on and so on. This is how our life becomes a mess. But this happens when you learn, for example, also how to inside, not to react to your pain. Then you also would watch a person in anger or pain, and you would not react to it in a way that complicates. You see? Then you are able to listen to that person. To contain this person. Even if this person is screaming at you. I simply listen. Try it once. Only once. Maybe you will fall in love with it. Because the other thing we have tried so many times. And our relationships do not show that this is necessarily the right way to be. Okay. So I declare a week without reaction. Thank you.